Well, it's been a few weeks. I think 3, maybe 4. We had spring break. We had an extension of spring break. We had 2 more extensions of spring break, but now we're back working on our coursework. We had originally going to be where we came back, reviewed for the exam, and then on Wednesday we took the exam. So what I'm going to do with this time, since it's been a while, might be a little rusty, we're going to work over the exam review and question by question, 16 questions I believe it is, and we will also have the this week basically for you to go ahead and review. During our class times, you can meet me in the Zoom meeting. I've got the link there in Canvas, and I'll do a separate video of that. But we'll be able to meet together, go over the problems separately. But for this one, I want to focus primarily just getting through and reviewing the questions for Chapter 6, which is dealing with rational functions. Remember, fractional algebraic expressions. So a lot of this is going to be about factoring and reducing and adding and solving. So we're going to look at these methods. Hopefully that will come back, but you'll have this full week to go through, understand the stuff, and then we'll have the exam next. Well, it'll become available, and again, I'll give you the details about that, but this one, let's just watch this video, interact with this video to understand the practice problems, and then we'll talk later about how to take the test, when it's due, all those kind of things, going from there. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna sit down in my little chair that I brought down here to South Mountain Community College. Actually, I'm not there, I'm here. So we will work through these questions together, and let's just start with number 1. Let's see, and bear with me a little bit. I'll do my best to make this smooth, and see, how do I get this right off the bat? Usually the top part just goes away, but anyway, we'll go ahead and work here. So the question is to take this function f of x right here and evaluate it. It doesn't say, but on your practice test you should see this. Evaluate this function f of x when x equals -4. So what we will do is we'll go through everywhere we see an x, right here, and right here, we're going to plug in a -4. So let me give myself a little more room, and what we will do is we will say that we're going to evaluate f of -4. We'll get 6 times -4, subtract 3, all over 5 times -4 squared, and remember, order of operations, we'll square first, plus 2 times -4 plus 3. So in the numerator, we've got 6 times -4. That gives us -24 minus 3. In the denominator, we get -4 squared, so we're squaring -4. That's -4 times -4. That's 16. So I'll kind of do a little. 16 times 5. Well, that's going to be 50. 5 times 6 is 30. 50 plus 30 will be 80. And of course, you're always welcome to pull out a calculator. And it's going to be positive because the square -4 times -4 makes it a positive 16 times 5. In the middle term, we get 2 times -4. So that's going to give us -8. And then we've got our plus 3. And now we do the combining in top, -4 and -3, when we combine them, since the signs are the same, we actually add. That's going to be 27 and -27. We got more negative. In the denominator, we get 80 minus 8. So we do that subtraction working left to right. So that's going to give us 72, a positive 72. And then we add 3 to that, so that's going to give us 75. And oh man, I'm stuck because there's an 85 here, 75. Well, what happened? Well, 3, the number 3 actually goes into both of these. So at first you're looking, and maybe I was a little too, but 3 can divide into both of these. 3 goes into 20. So what we're going to do, it's nice that we have this here. I know that 3 goes into 27. Maybe 9 does. I don't think so, but we'll divide out a 3 of both of these. 3 goes into 27 9 times, so that gives us -9 on top. 3 goes into 75 25 times. So this is our final answer here, which is answer A. Okay. You could also get the decimal equivalent if you wanted to, but that's how we go about doing it by hand. And I debated whether I should do separate videos for each of these, and what I'm going to do is this one I'm just going to do like a class session. I'm just going to keep working through all these examples like I would if we were all together in the classroom. I want to make this as close to feeling like we're here together in a classroom as if we were actually together in the classroom. The part we're going to miss on this recorded portion is your opportunity to ask questions. That's what the Zoom meetings will be about during class time. You're not required to come at that time. If you want to watch these videos and work through it and you've got understanding, that's great. Those class meeting times now become an opportunity, though, for when you do have questions that didn't get answered by the video. We still going? Okay, I just my screen went black. I'm not sure what happened to yours, but we're going to just keep moving forward. Okay, so let's look at question number 2. So this one is to solve the equation. And so we very quickly move into a new type of equation. Now, there's a couple ways. We could just do this with cross multiplying, but for some of these others, another way we could do this is multiply both sides by the common denominator. And in this case, the common denominator is going to be x plus 5 times 7. So let's come back at home. I'm going to take -5 over x plus 5 is equal to -1 over 7. What I will do to both sides of this equation, I'll multiply by x plus 5 times 7. And over here, I'll multiply by x plus 5 times 7. And by doing this, what ends up happening, we get really the same result as if we had cross multiplied, is the x plus 5 cancels on the left-hand side. X plus 5 divided by x plus 5 is 1. And so we're left with 7 times -5. So that's going to be -35. Kind of cool. I can move these things around. I find these. And then on the other side, 7 divided by 7, so 7 divided by 7 is 1, That's my canceling. And so what we're left is this -1 times x plus 5. And I'm going to go ahead and distribute -1. -1 times x is -x. -1 times +5 becomes -5. So then we want to solve for x, so I would add 5 to both sides, which gives me -30 equals -x. And think of that negative in front as being a -1 if you'd like, because that's what it is. So we divide both sides by -1, and our final answer is going to be x is equal to +30, which is option B. Okay, so that's one way. Again, we could have cross multiplied if we would have got to this step the same way. Doing all right? Good. So now let's arrow down a little bit more, and this time I'm going to make some room here. Same question, and we'll really approach this in the same way. I'm going to give myself enough room this time. So we could multiply by the common denominator, which in this case is going to be x minus 5 in the bottom from the left side and x plus 7 on this side. Okay, so we'll set it up here. Yeah, it's looking a little... make it a little narrower. So we're going to have -10 over x minus 5. And I'm just rewriting the problem right now. -5 over x plus 7. Remember, if you get bored of me, you can always fast forward. There's also an option with YouTube where you can listen to it at like twice the speed. I'll sound like a chipmunk, but it might. I do that with one of my teachers, just because I can follow along, and so the brain goes faster than people can talk. So again, if you want to do that, that's always an option. It's hard to. Okay, and again, I'm always open to any suggestions you may see. So we're going to multiply by x minus 5, x plus 7. So x minus 5, x plus 7. X minus 5, because that's the common denominator, x plus 7. Okay, on the left hand side, the x minus 5 cancels with the x minus 5, right? That's value 1. So we have x plus 7 times a -10. -10 is going to distribute to both of the terms. So -10 times x gives us a -10x. -10 times +7 gives us -70. On the other side, x plus 7 cancels out with x plus 7, because it's a division problem. Something divided by itself is always 1. And so we're left with -5 times x minus 5. And again, we will go ahead and distribute -5 times x and then -5 times -5. So we end up with -5x, in this case, plus 25. Now we're just going to solve for x. So we got to get the x's on the same side because we have them on opposite sides right now. So let's go ahead and change colors here. I like to have a positive x, so I know if I add 10x to both sides, I'll get a positive x. You could also add 5x to both sides, and it gets the x's on the same side, but then it's a negative. But either way will work. That's just a personal preference. Let's go ahead and add 10x to both sides. and so negative 10x plus 10, that's 0. So on the left side, all that's left is minus 70. The right-hand side, we got negative 5x plus 10x. Those are like terms. Leaves us with 5x. And then plus 25. Now we've got the x on one side. So let's get the x by itself. We will subtract 25 from both sides. So that gives us 5x on the right side. Right, these are going to cancel. And on the left side, negative 70, negative 25, both are the same, so we add them. That's going to give us 95, negative 95. Back up there a little bit, give ourselves a little bit of room. Okay, and so the last step here is, and again, sometimes you could probably go ahead and check. You notice 95 divided by 5 is bigger than all of these. I might just say it must be this, right? It's only one number that's kind of good, and you'd probably be right. Let's divide by 5. Divide by 5, and what we get is x negative divided by positive. It's definitely negative. Now what I just do is if you took 100 divided by 5, that's 20. 95 is 1 less 5. So yeah, that's negative 19. Also plug it in the calculator. But just the gut instinct, I knew it wasn't going to be 3. I knew it was going to be 5 or 7. These get to questions of domain, right? We take those out. But anyway, this is how we go about solving. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep moving forward. And we're going to get to some interesting ones here pretty quick. Okay, there we go. So let's go to simplifying. Now we're going to start with these. This first one is going to be, it's already factored for us. The next one is partially factored for us, so we have to factor part of it. So this is getting us back into our factoring skills. And then the last one, we'll have to factor everything and then reduce. So what we see in here is that it's really set up to reduce or simplify. We don't want to multiply out because that would undo all the work that's been done for us. But we know we have a negative y minus 4 in the top and the bottom. So we can take that and say that when something divides by itself, that's 1. So that's been taken care of. So what's left? Well, y plus 9, y plus 6. Those are addition. It's not multiplication, so you can't do any further reducing. This is all there is. Okay. Now each other one, I don't, again, they've got various wrong answers here, but that's it. We just simplified. Didn't need as much room as I thought I would, right? Let's see if I can. In fact, since we didn't need the room, let's go ahead and shorten this up. Okay, same question. In the bottom, we have a plus 8, a minus 7. We can't do any reducing yet, but what we can do is hopefully you can see you can factor. In the top, there is a common factor of a. So we can factor out the a. So in the numerator, we get a So this a squared, there's two a's. If one comes out, one's left behind. Minus 7, this a came to the front, so that's a minus 7. So that's how we factor the top. And in the denominator, a plus 8, a minus 7. And we see that whenever we have the same thing in top and bottom, that's a factor of 1. So a minus 7 divided by a minus 7 is 1. And that's what's left behind, an a in the numerator and an a plus 8 in the denominator. That's our answer. Okay, so see how this keeps us moving forward. And again, I didn't need all this room. Looks like a problem. I might on this next one need a little bit of room. Because what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to factor the top, the numerator, and I'm going to need to factor the denominator. Okay. So the numerator, they're both trinomials. Maybe I should go up here, since I do have room. So the numerator, remember how to factor. Y squared, so that's the first term, has to be y times y. So I put that in there. The back two terms, the one that goes here and the one that goes here, when I multiply them together, I get negative 8. So I've got choices of 1 times 8, 2 times 4, or 4 times 2, but that's the same thing. That's pretty much it, isn't it? And so the thing is, since it's a minus here, 8, it's a negative 8, I subtract these two. So when I subtract 1 and 8, I get 7, but there's not a 7 in the middle. When I take 4 minus 2, I get 2. That's the combination I need. So the numbers I'm going to have are 2 and 4. Those go on the back sides. So here's 2. Here's 4. Now I've got to figure out about negatives. One of them's going to be negative, one's going to be positive. That's the only way I can multiply two numbers and get a negative. One has to be positive, one has to be negative. The result is positive, so that tells me the larger number, in this case 4, is the negative one. Is the positive one. Right? Because we end up positive, so we're more positive than negative. So 4 is positive. You probably knew that and said, what's Little Crow talking about? He's had 4 weeks off. Does he even remember how to do his math? I'm not sure. Actually, I've been keep working, and I've been working on figuring out how to teach online. Although I've had some experience, but I set up a new studio to get this this look here. And I've been working. Continue to work. Okay, so the denominator. Now here's the thing is, once we have one of these, there's some hints here. Probably we're going to have a y minus 2 or a y plus 4, or possibly both. But what we see is we've got it's 18. 4 does not go into 18. 18 is either 2 times 9 or 3 times 6, right? So when we're looking at this factoring, the things I can think of is either 2 times 9 or 3 times 6, or 1 times 18, but again, that would give us 1 times 18, and in this subtraction, the negative in front of the 18 tells us we're subtracting 1 minus 18, 17. That doesn't work. 6 minus 3 is 3. That doesn't work. But 9 minus 2 is 7. That's the pair we are going to use. And again, we've got a y in the front. And then we've got 9 and we've got 2. The little helper tells me the 2 is going to be negative, the y is going to be positive. And I look over here, the 7 in the middle is positive, so the bigger number has the positive on it. So we see extra ways to look at things. extra clues, if you will. So the y minus 2 is the same in the top and the bottom. Those give us a factor of 1. What's left? Y plus 4 divided by y plus 9. Nothing further reduces, and let's see, that looks like D right there. Incidentally, your test is going to be very similar to this, multiple choice, so this gives you good practice. Anything you're struggling with, go back to the homework, find similar problems, and practice them. Okay. So where are we? We're here. We didn't need that much space, so let's get rid of some of it. And then we're going to come down here, and now it's looking like there's going to be a lot, and there sort of is, but again, we're going to start our factoring once we get one of the sides factored, and try to go for the easier one, because what that'll do is it'll help us see, help us with factoring the others. So what we've got is two fractions, so we've got two numerators and two denominators, so we're going to need to factor 4 different polynomials, and we'll get some reducing going on, and then we'll find our answer. The one with the binomial here, you can look at it, it's got a common factor of k, so that can factor out. I'm going to factor out the k, and then what's left inside is k plus 8. So now in the denominator here or here, I'm probably going to get a k plus 8. That's going to be my bet. That's how these things always work. In the real world, you couldn't always count on that, but we're in the math world right now, right? Which one shall we do? Let's see. And again, oftentimes they're the ones that are across from it, and I see the 16. 16 is 2 times 8. 16 is 2 times 8, and it's a plus, so when we add them, 2 plus 8 is 10. That's going to work here. That's going to work just fine. So I'm going to factor this one. Again, k times k gives us k squared. 16 is going to be 2 times 8, and the order doesn't really matter where we put them, so I'll put the 2 here and the 8 here. Since we're adding and we have a positive for our answer, they're both positive. And again, one of the ways to check your factoring is you could FOIL it back out if you need to. And I'm going to just kind of work straightforward through these. And again, if one of these doesn't make sense, or you don't know why I did what I did or how I got to it, that's where you can ask in class, and we'll make sure it all gets answered. Okay, so there's that one. Let's go ahead and do the numerator here, k squared plus 6k plus 8. Again, 8 has basically 2 options. It's 1 times 8 or 2 times 4. We are adding because there's a plus here and there's a plus here, so they'll both be positive. 2 plus 4 is 6, so those are the two we're going to be doing. 2 and 4. So we get k, and they're both positive because 8 is positive, so positive times a positive is positive, and the positive here tells us that they both have to be positive. Because a negative times a negative is also positive, but that's why we look to both of these signs. Okay, getting lots of practice with factoring. Now this last part to get factored, we have a plus 28, a plus in the, so we know we're going to add. 28 is 4 times 7, or it's 2 times, what is that, 2 times 14. You could try that, but when you add 2 times 14, you get 16. When you add 4 plus 7, you get 11. So 4 and 7 are the partners we want to use with this one. Okay, so this one will be K, K. We've got 4, and we've got 7. Again, we've got this addition, so that's why we add them. And since the middle term is also positive, they're both positive. And now watch how much canceling we get as we go to simplify these fractions. So anything in the top that's the same. We've got a k plus 8 and a k plus 8. Those cancel out to a factor of 1. We have, where am I? We have k plus 4 and k plus 4 that way. We have k plus 2 and k plus 2. Now when something factors out, cancels out completely, remember it's a factor of 1, and so we multiply straight across. All that's left in the top is a factor of k times 1 if you want, but that's k. In the bottom, everything canceled out except k plus 7, so it's 1 times k plus 7, which is k plus 7. So that's what we're left with. That's option C, and there it is. Okay. Factor, top and bottom will cancel each other out when you have the same thing, and they just kind of keep on moving. So go ahead and get rid of some space here. Okay, and this one really is the same thing. We want to multiply. You can leave your answer in factored form depending upon how far down it gets. Again, you can always look at what your options are. So the first thing we want to do is look at factoring. Well, y minus 7 and y minus 3, those can't be factored. So let's, they do give us hints though, because this y squared minus 9, we've got to get some canceling. It's going to be this way. Hopefully you see this y squared minus 9. That's a difference of squares. It's y squared minus 3 squared. So remember, a difference of squares factors into y plus the square root of the the thing that's being squared, and again remember 9 is equal to 3 squared. Okay, so it's going to be y plus 3, y minus 3. I don't know why, just right over here, right? But y plus 3, y minus 3. Okay. The denominator, what you look here is 7y plus 21. There's a common factor of 7. 7 goes into 7 and 7 goes into 21. So you can factor out the 7. What ends up having, you take out the 7, and so you have a y. 21 divided by 7 is plus 3. And then the right fraction, it doesn't factor at all, but we just have y minus 7 and y minus 3 in the denominator. I'll put parentheses around them just to, sometimes it's easier to do the canceling. So y minus 3 here, y minus 3 there. Y plus 3 here, y plus 3 there. So there's a factor of 1. And what's left behind? We get a y minus 7 in the top, and in the denominator 7 is left. Now some might be tempted to cancel out these 7s, but it won't work. You can only do the canceling out. It's really dividing the top by the bottom. You need separate, you need things to be multiplied. This is a subtraction, and you could do it with like, try this. 4 minus 3 divided by 3. If you cancel that out, what you end up with is 4, right? Or maybe end up with 4 minus 1, you maybe end up with 3. But if you do it sort of order of operations, 4 minus 3 is 1. The answer needs to be 1/3. And if you cancel these, you're not going to get your 1/3. So that's not a legal thing to do. That's a good way to check it. Anyway, that's what we've got. And so we're going to go with D. Okay. And since I'm about halfway through, I'm going to take a little break. get my mind refreshing. You probably don't need to tell you that. I could just go do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'll let you know. Full, what do they call that? Full transparency here. So let's take a little break and I'll come back. Actually, I'll make a second video so that this breaks it down into 2 pieces. I think it'd be a little bit easier for your watching. You should take a break too. So go grab some popcorn, soda or something, take a break, and we'll get after this in a little bit. Thanks.